my name is James Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about buy-to-let properties that are getting repossessed. You see, landlords have got themselves in a pickle, or at least some of them have, and the increase in repossessions is up substantially on last year. So this video, I'm going to talk about why this is happening, how much this is an increase, and should this be worrisome for tenants or other landlords. But also, there's a potential opportunity here as well by helping some of these landlords that are in a difficult situation. So we're going to have a great discussion on what is happening in the market right here. If you're new around here and you haven't done already, do subscribe to the channel over there and hit the bell notification. 3,000 people have subscribed this month, which is absolutely crazy. And let's get some more awareness on this topic. How can we do that? Easy, I tell you. Smash like, tickle like, do something to that like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm and pushes more views onto the channel. So take a moment to do that right now. So, it's not looking great for landlords. We've had a really difficult couple of years. And I know if you're a tenant or you're someone that wants to get on the property ladder yourself, you're probably not going to get your violin out. But landlords do provide something very important, and that is housing. And the rental market, the amount of available properties, hasn't grown since 2016, which is crazy if you think about it. The population has grown substantially in that time, and landlords are quitting in record numbers. So where we're sitting is a shrinking rental market while our population is growing. What that's doing is putting unnecessary burden on people that need to rent a property, because they could sometimes be fighting against tons of people just to get one property. It's also pushing up rents at record rates, which isn't great either. So what's going on with repossessions at the moment? Well, repossessions at the moment are up significantly, and they are up 73% this quarter compared to the same quarter last year. That's a big jump. That shows that landlords just can't afford the properties. You see, when inflation hit, the way to counter that was to increase interest rates. But landlords get hit harder than most on that, because we have interest-only mortgages. And while there are benefits of that, I'm going to do a video on that in the next few days, it also can be a bad thing. Because let's just say you had a 2% interest rate, which a lot of people did for many, many years. Then interest rates went up to 6%. Your monthly payments in that scenario triple. Now, you might not be able to pass that on as increases in rent. You've also had tax rises as well. And so the amount of properties that are in difficulty at the moment, buy-to-let landlords that are struggling to make payments, is 13,000 landlords at the moment. And what do we call difficulty? Well, we're talking about people that owe more than 2.5% of the balance of the property. So if they own a 100 grand house, they own at least £2,500 or more for that property. And that is a huge number. Now, that will have a knock-on effect, because those properties will ultimately get repossessed. And if they do get repossessed, they'll be vacant. They'll be empty. So any tenants will have to be removed from that property. And then they may go into an auction process. Now, that can take months of time. And sometimes properties don't sell in auction. And so that property could be off the market for 6 months to a year quite easily. So that means the rental market shrinks a little bit longer. Now, it could come back. Maybe it gets bought by another landlord, or maybe it gets bought by a first-time buyer or someone that lives in it. But there's still a prolonged period of time in order for that to happen. Now, why have we got here? What's causing all these problems at the moment? Well, I've just mentioned interest rates, and they have been very difficult for landlords to deal with. Now, some landlords own their properties outright. They're not going to be impacted by this. But like I said, if you had a 2% interest rate, which you could have got for a very, very long time, and then that rate went up to 6%, your payments in that scenario would triple. If you didn't have a lot of equity in that property and you had a 75% loan to value mortgage, that means that you could be losing money each month on the property. Now, landlords don't have much other way that they can do this. You have interest-only mortgages. If you change it to a repayment mortgage, your payments would go up even more. Another thing that's been difficult, which is Section 24. And Section 24 means that landlords get taxed on the gross amount of rent that they have. Now, they can make some deductions for repairs and stuff like that, but on the whole, the majority of the rental payment is taxed. It depends on what tax bracket they go into. So if they're a higher rate tax owner, they could be taxed nearly 50% of the rent straight over to the taxman. Now, in that scenario, then they've got a small amount of money, half of the rent, to pay the mortgage, repairs, and all of that stuff out of. And that's meant that some landlords now, if they own a property in their personal name, it's just not cost effective and it's losing them a ton of money every single month. So this is something that the government's phased in over the last few years. And because of all of the stuff that's going on in the market, there are landlords that lose money every month for Section 24 as well. Now, imagine if you had a tax bill that you've got to pay and you're losing money on the interest rates as well. You could be hit really hard, and that's really showing as why properties are struggling here. You've also got people that are stuck on variable rates. So what does that mean? We had one that was similar to this. We've got a property that we got downvalued on. So what that means is the surveyor comes out, they say, well, not quite worth as much as it was a few years ago. And in that scenario, they will offer you less money, and you might not be able to, if you don't have enough equity in that scenario, be able to get onto a new mortgage. The only option you'd have is to top up the deposit to reduce the amount of money that you want to borrow, or you can get stuck on a variable rate. That is a problem for people. We were fortunate that we did have the equity, so the down value wasn't so bad. But if we were just starting out and we didn't buy a property that we added value to, that could have been a real problem. You've also got people that get stuck on variable rates because maybe they applied for a mortgage too slowly and all the solicitors and everyone is just really slow, and that caused them to be stuck on that variable rate, meaning they could be paying massive payments, 10% interest quite easily on certain lenders, causing them to just lose lots of money and then struggle to make payments each month, which would get them closer to that repossession. Another thing you've got to consider is it's been hard for everybody at the moment, hasn't it? And so we've had, well, the cost of living crisis for a few years now with inflation and all of this stuff. And so there are more tenants not paying their rent on time. Now, for a landlord, if they are just owning one or two properties and they don't get their rent on time, then they may not be able to afford their mortgage. And that puts them into arrears as well. So look, if you own a property in your personal name, it can be tough as a landlord at the moment. And so I always advise that new purchases that you get go into a limited company. That's very, very important. Now, there's opportunities here as well, because there's a lot of landlords that want to leave the market. But you could maybe take those properties on and buy them into a limited company where you don't have all these tax burdens and it's a lot more tax efficient. You can write off more expenses and run that business a lot more efficiently. That could be an opportunity to help some of these landlords and take their properties off them, maybe at a better price, to stop them getting repossessed as well. So I think that this is going to continue until rates come down. I think the government should look at this Section 24 thing as well, because that's pushing more landlords out the market, either by choice, because they've had enough, or just because they can't afford it anymore. And that is shrinking the rental market. That's pushing rents up. That is making affordability worse for people. And that's not what we want in this market. We need rental property that's good quality and is good for everybody. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. I know some of you will just be like, well, that's it, tough. You're a landlord, you took the risk. you've lost out. But you've also got to look at the side of, if you have less rental stock, rents are going to continue to rise. Do also smash the like button on this video and check out all the other content on my channel, including this video right here.